Welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. So today's video, we're not doing any watch reviews. I feel I need to take a little break from doing all these watch reviews. It's kind of getting to my head. So I want to concentrate on a little favorite hobby of mine, related to watches, and that is of course modding watches. So today's video, I will modify a watch, but before that, I want to take you through some of the mods that I've done that I've actually kept. It's just part of the hobby, right? I mean, personal feelings aside and what people think of the mods, that aside, I think majority of people who buy mods know exactly what they are. They're uniquely built watches, and if you're a long-term subscriber of this channel, you'll know I've got a bunch of modding videos out there. I've got a whole playlist, in fact, which if you follow it covers everything you need to know, in terms of modifying any Seiko NH35 or NH36 or any other Seiko movement, with that respect, like 6R15, 6R35, etc. The principles kind of still apply. So let's take you through some of the mods that I've done that I've actually kept. So let's start off from right to left. I believe this was probably most recent. This is a Saab 35 originally, and it's got the Uncle Seiko Saab, I believe 37 dial, that unicorn one that everybody wants. Of course, salmon pink. And yeah, incredible dial, right? A really great Uncle Seiko. And as I said earlier, regardless of, what you feel about it, whether it's a replica, whatever it is, I think it's something for, people to enjoy, because the original you're just not going to get, right? So the Saab 35 into a Saab 37, I really enjoy wearing this. And yeah, one of my most favorite mods to date. Now, moving along, second one, this is a Samurai case, but it's actually a Proxima Samurai case. And it's so well built that it actually takes the original Seiko Samurai bracelet, which I've done that. It's got a flat ceramic bezel insert, fully loomed. And I've actually gone for a aftermarket yellow monster dial. And the combination just worked, because Samurai and monster watches, and I think baby tuners, they are kind of, they all assimilate into the same thing. They've got similar sized parts, dimensions, crowns, etc. So you can kind of mix and match between all of them, but this is really more like a look on Proxima's cases. This is probably the best built aftermarket Samurai homage, if you will, and Proxima have really outdone themselves when they made this case. So this watch, I like it. I've gone with a blacked out MM300 style hands to kind of match the aesthetics that you see here, and I've put an orange second stand to match that bit of orange text on the dial. And I think that yellow color just pops. I would love to go for just a date version, ideally no date, but with this dial you can only get a day and date complication. So stunning quality of dial, a great watch. And those of you guys that know Aliexpress, I'm not going to link all the dials, etc. Things start to get a bit complicated, so you know where to look for, and it's fun as well, trying to find all these things on Aliexpress, I suppose. So cracking watch, I love it. I do wear this quite often. Third one down, this is SNSX from Seiko. This is a watch that a lot of people don't mod, but people who know about this watch, it's a fantastic base. 37mm case size. People complain about the bracelet, but I find it is an awesomely comfortable bracelet. Yes, this jangly is very cheap, but it does the job for me. But these watches, this case particularly, is an absolute strap monster, and it fits a whole bunch of straps. On camera, this is coming up more for ice blue, but in reality, it's more of a mint green. It's got the Roman numerals. I've stuck the original handset because I really like the handset used on the SNSX models. And this was a silver dial originally, and I went, I modified it with this mint green. But I do have a few of these in my collection. As I said, really nice watches. And I will be doing a mod in the near future using a gold one. So stay tuned. Let's put that away. And the next up, this was a mod I done a long time ago. This case is actually a genuine Samurai case. It's a King Samurai case, so it's got the Seiko ceramic bezel insert. And this case was actually bought from Aliexpress. Again, this is for those kind of expert modders out there. You know as well as me, Aliexpress does have some OEM cases and bracelets, so that's definitely something good to know. I think Seiko did kind of mess up by putting a factory within China, and you can imagine what happens. So genuine Samurai case. I've gone for an aftermarket Miltap Hex Add bracelet. I hate the clasp on this. I want to change it. Such a gaudy, nasty clasp, but you know, it is very functional. But the bracelet, for the most part, it does look good. I think the polished center links do match that polished bezel. Yeah, nice mod. I've got a Save the Ocean dial, manta ray. And I've put some sumo style hands with a yellow second hand. Now the yellow second hand really does kind of suit the watch. I'm not too sure about the hand set. You know, these are sumo style hands. I might go back to samurai style hands. But that's one I really did enjoy. And you know, it's part of the collection, as you can see. And then I think this mod goes quite a way back. Sorry, it's a 54 watch 62 mass case. I like this case because it's so kind of basic, rudimentary. I've chosen this case over the Seaston just for the mod, because the Seaston is a very refined watch. And I think kind of, you know, for me, I want that basic, you know, let's say almost crude looking 62 mass homage. And I went with the original Seiko dial. However, the handset, it is a mismatch in lume, and that does bother me. It's quite green, whereas, you know, Seiko's are a bit more bluey white. So I might go for an aftermarket dial and just kind of put this grey one away for a rainy day in case I get hands that, you know, match the lume color at least. But yeah, this is a nice watch. It wears really good on wrist. So let me introduce you the latest mod I did. This is one I completed just a couple of days ago. Let's give it a quick wipe down. Now, I bought this baby tuna from eBay. It was actually severely water damaged. I'll see if I can put a picture from the original listing. Yeah, I don't know how the water got into this watch. I think it was, I don't know, dropped in the Mariana Trench. Because the water had just fully submerged, you know, all the internals. So I had to scrap the movement, scrap the dial and the handset. So I went with an OEM, dark manta Save the Ocean dial from Seiko. And as you can see, it is a samurai dial. However, if it ended up fitting this baby tuna so well, going back to my point, is that the samurai monsters and the baby tunas, they, you know, they have some common dimensions. And as well as that, I put in a stealth date. So I'm with a black date. I don't really want a bit of white on there. I wanted the date to kind of blend in. And that dark manta dial, there's so much detail on this. And, you know, I think even looking at the original watch, £400 for such an amazing dial. You know, you get really good quality from Seiko. Yes, I did say a trigger word quality because the bezels don't normally line up, but with this watch the bezel does line up with the chapter ring and the dial. So I'm really impressed with how this one turned out. I've also gone with some sand blasted or bead blasted hands. Slightly oversized. I like the looks. I think, you know, Seiko should definitely have done a baby tuna with this manta ray dial, because I love that, you know, the grade kind of hue to this, you know, Save the Ocean in comparison to this very vibrant blue. So yeah, this is my latest one. Absolutely kind of chuffed with this, and like I said, it's on wrist. But what are we going to do today? So today I am going to modify a bit of a vintage watch. Now, I'm always on the lookout for Seiko watches, you know, aside from the YouTube watch reviews. You know, I like to keep my side of the hobby going. And yeah, so, you know, I do like vintage watches as well, but I'm very particular about my taste. And sometimes, you know, I just literally look at the listings on eBay, and if something does stand out to me, then, you know, I'll just go ahead and purchase it. This one was 50 quid, not a lot of money. Used, obviously. It's quite old, but I think considering the age, it's in very good condition. Now, I originally thought it was a type of SNSX. However, upon closer inspection, it is slightly different. Same dimensions though, it still is 37 millimeters. And it came to me in hand. One of the first things I noticed was that domed mineral crystal. And that is, you know, really good. You don't really see that. And of course, it's also got a kind of inbuilt bezel into the case, a very flat, shallow bezel. And I like the doming on there. Now, arguably, you don't need to modify this. It's got a stunning grey dial, you know, nice hands, similar to the other SNSX setups. However, don't like the day date, and the movement is, you know, it needs a service. So, but I'm not going to spend any money servicing this movement. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to upgrade the movement to a NH35, and I'm also going to change the dial, and we are going to turn this into a field watch, but a very recognizable field watch. So let me show you guys the dial I'm going to be using. Now, I'm crossing boundaries here. I understand, you know, it's a genuine watch and I'm using aftermarket parts. So surely it's probably better than, you know, using an aftermarket case. But, you know, let's not talk about the politics. So the watch dial I am using is an aftermarket silver Seiko Alpine style. And yeah, I did a mod for someone recently actually. One of the subscribers who reached out wanted a watch modified, and I offered him this dial option, and it's same SNSX watch, and he's over the moon about it. And then I've got one dial left, so I'm going to be putting this dial onto this watch. I've also got some Alpinist hands. However, there's a touch of red on this dial, and I want to complement that. So I might use a paddle dial from the 6105, but I'll see how I feel at the end. I might just stick, with the cathedralized Alpinist hands, or should I go 6105 hands? I don't know. I think I'll work through that as I get on with the mod. So we're going to do this. We're going to change the movement. So let's pull these watches away. Let's get the case back off. And this is not a tutorial as such, because I've done many tutorials. I'll just go through the motions, to go through the steps. I'll explain myself as I go along as well. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video. A little bit of a break away from watch reviews. Sometimes it is needed. So if you're looking for a watch review, I do apologize. But if you're here for mods and you want to enjoy the show, then welcome. Let's make a start. Now, one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the back rotor, because I don't want this to get any charge. I don't want the hands to move. So let's take the rotor off, so it doesn't actually start moving the hands. So you want to line up the hands with the second hand. This is start moving. I suppose there's a bit of charge in here somewhere. So we'll wait for that to be lined up, and then we'll go ahead and remove them at the same time. And I want to try and protect the dial, because it does have a really nice glossy coating. So it's a great quality dial. I want to try and kind of preserve that. The only thing we do need from this movement right now is we actually need the movement holder, because with the NH35s, they've got a slightly thicker movement holder, and therefore you need to kind of swap them out. Now, I usually stock NH36 movements. The thing is, you don't know what you're going to use them for. You might do a date, you might do just a date. And I think with the beauty of NH36 is that you can just remove that C-clip, remove the date disc, and then you can use it as an NH35. But you can't go the other way around. It doesn't have that functionality, so it's always good to have the option rather than not. Now, with regards to modding, I know that a lot of people are kind of scared, and you know what, my first try at modding was absolutely awful. I can tell you some stories, guys. I did a video, it's in the playlist, where my worst modding accidents, and it's trial and error. Obviously, don't try with a genuine Seiko watch, but the beauty of these homage watches is they are cheap, and therefore you've got room to kind of mess around with them. And if it goes wrong, so it's not a lot of money, but there's not a lot that can actually go wrong. You can pretty much fix everything on the NH35s and 36s, which is why I love them. Very good movement to use. So let's take that off. We won't need that. Now, for the fiddly part, yes, we need to remove that movement holder, and then swap it over with the black one. And yeah, very fiddly. I'll see if I can give you some tips. It's probably best to remove the date wheel, but being lazy, I don't like to, so I'll just kind of fight with it till I get it done. Right, I do have a bit of good news. You don't actually need to remove the movement ring. And where this started from was basically the SKX 007s. Everyone was modifying those, upgrading the movements, and with those you needed to. However, with this one, it slots straight in, so that saved me a fair bit of time, and I can just go ahead, put the dial in, get the hands on, and do a quick, easy modification. Check the dial feet location on this, compare with your other hand, and a lot of aftermarket dials do have both options. So you want to snip the right, the correct legs, and don't make sure you don't cut the wrong ones. If you do, it's not really that much of a problem, because you can use dial dots, but ideally you want to keep the dial feet. Slot your dial. Now, before you apply some hands, you want to set the watch to 12 o'clock. And the way you do that, nice and easy, double click that crown and just rotate. So luckily we're already near enough to 12. And wait for that turnover. give it a slight little turn, and then when the watch goes over 12, the date should switch over bang on the 12 rather than after. And then just very carefully apply your hand, place it over the pinion, slightly kind of center it, and you should feel a little click. Right, so here's the 12 o'clock hand. That's set, ready to go. And what you want to do, right, and I've modded so many watches, I've put so many hands on, that, a lot of people put the minute hand straight on top of it. And I found it kind of misaligned, like 8 times out of 10. So what I tend to do is turn the hour hand to the 6 and then put the minute hand at the 12. Now, it just works for me. Well, I can't explain it, don't know how, don't know why, but that just kind of works for me. So after I've lined up the hour hand to the best I can, try to put the minute hand on. So one thing I do want to check is at this point is get the minute hand over the hour hand and just check for like alignment. We ideally want to see a uniform gap between the two and make sure nothing is touching. So that is okay. So I've just put the second hand on there, and I quite like it. I think it's a red for me. It does match the accents, and I think when you got slight bit of colouring on the dial, you do need something on the handset to match. So I'm gonna go with that, and let's put that on and let's see how it looks. So here we go, we got the second hand attached, and I'm quite happy with how that looks. Just a slight modification to the traditional alpinist setup. So why don't we go ahead, put this in the watch, and then now we've got to use a new stem and a crown, and I think that's where it's going to get tricky for a lot of people that want to do this mod at home. So let me give you some pointers there. So this is what the dial looks like in the case. And you know what, it has changed the watch. Obviously it will, it's a drastic change, and that does look quite good. Obviously it does kind of make the outer compass a bit useless, because usually they rotate, but it's on the dial anyway. It's going to be part of the aesthetic more than the function anyway. So let's sort out the crown and stem. Now, the biggest obstacle you are going to come across, and it's an obstacle which I had for a long time, was the crown, because the crowns on these are so tiny, and you can't actually reuse crowns. And the 7S stem will not work in the 4R or the NH. So, luckily I did find a supplier on eBay. I'll leave a link to the store. I do believe they have a little shop as well. And, just to give you an idea of the size is have a quick look. Okay, so it's a 3.8mm crown. I think it comes under 4mm, or it's a 7S crown. So I don't know what it's like across the globe in terms of your watch parts, but here in the UK, this is what we have. So what you ideally want to do is get the new stem, and if you buy NH35 movements, you have a stem included. But it's always a good idea to go onto eBay or Aliexpress and buy a bunch of stems. I've got like a good collection of stems now, so it's going to be trial and error. You might mess something up. This isn't that precise of an operation. You can be very precise with it. I think in one of my first videos where I spoke about this, I was extremely precise, but now practice, you kind of just use your eye and just take it from there. So we need to insert the crown and stem. Let's turn it over first, so make sure we're doing it right. And gently kind of ease it in. Make sure it's fully engaged. So now you can see we've got a lot to take off. Now this crown sits more or less flush with the case. So a good way to kind of work out how much you need to cut is if you measure from just where you got the gap, the recess where the crown needs to sit, and to the actual crown. Yeah, make sure it's not engaged as well. Make sure it's not in position 2, and just get a measurement there. You're looking at 9mm to take off, so that's quite a lot. So the total length is 21.5 or 0.6, and we want to take off 9mm. Take off 8.5 and then work your way down. So, and like I said, I'm not measuring nothing. I'm just gonna kind of go and snip it there first. See where we've got to. 16. Yeah, we want to go a bit more. Kind of round off the edges to make sure the crown does actually, screw on properly.
3 hours later. Two hours later.
Once you are happy with the length, go ahead, apply just a touch of Loctite. Literally a touch, you don't need a lot. Go ahead, screw that crown down for the final time. What you want to do is just a touch of silicone grease to the stem. And there we go. And there we go, guys. We've made an alpinist mod using a vintage Seiko, but it's been upgraded with a hack and wind movement, and I think that looks pretty good. Now I'm just going to find a strap to put this on. It did come with a Jubilee style bracelet, a genuine bracelet from Seiko, but yeah, the end links don't fit too well, so I will be doing using a leather strap, and let's see what I come up with. And there we go. I've put it on this well-worn leather strap. It's from a company called Makes, and they're on Aliexpress. And I bought the strap a long time ago, and it's had a fair bit of use. And I think it adds to some of that character. I think that cracking of the leather, it does kind of change color slightly when you squeeze it, and it looks quite distressed. So that's quite a nice leather strap. One thing I didn't do is regulate the movement. So let's put in the time grapher. Let's see what it is running straight out the box, and if we need to regulate it. So I like to live regulate my watches. It is face stand position, and you do have a bit of variation when you do turn the watch, crown face up, crown side, etc. But this is running pretty good, very healthy amplitude, 0 beat error, plus 5 seconds face down. I don't really want to touch it at all. You're not going to get any more accurate than that. Now, here's an interesting observation. What I've found is with the Malaysian made NH35, NH36 movements, they are extremely accurate. You don't need to regulate them as much. But what I find with the Japan made Seiko NH35 and NH36 is they need a bit more honing in, they need a bit more fine tuning. The beat errors consistently on 0.5, 0.8, they do need just a bit of tightening up. But versus the Malaysia one, they're a lot better, and this is running more or less perfectly, right? It is perfect. So I'm going to stick to the movement. I don't need to regulate it, and I'm quite happy with this build. I think my whole idea or objective behind my modding lessons, should we say, and all the videos I did, was to get more people into the modification game. It's definitely worth getting your hands on there. It kind of brings you closer to the hobby as well. So it takes away from just watch collecting and actually getting into watches, really knowing what they're built like, and seeing if you can make any differences. So let me know your thoughts on what you think of these guys. I'm actually quite happy with them, really impressed. Just want to hear your thoughts on that. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on the next video.